Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm doing this clip on from Steven Crowder, so all credit to him for the source material of a interview of Sidney Powell explaining the mass discrepancies in evidence against Dominion for more than just incompetence, but an actual deliberate, calculated strike against the election to supplant the president. Thank you for watching.
Michael Flynn was innocent. She talked about specifically, we've talked about ballots, poll watchers, we've talked about ballots being harvested, we've talked about them not following the constitutional parameters. But there is another component to this, and we don't know. I want to be clear, we don't know that there is massive fraud occurring from Dominion voting systems, and there is some misinformation out there, both from the left and the right. However, this attorney who works with the Trump administration, Sidney Powell, research her, look up her credibility, had this to say yesterday regarding Dominion voting.
We're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states, and President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
To be clear, this is not a woman who typically makes claims that she can't prove.
Or dresses like Corey
Let me
Feldman,
be clear.
usually.
She never makes claims she can't prove.
Right.
You're
a lawyer, isn't she?
Outstanding attorney with impeccable credibility in terms of not only her credentials, but the different fights that she's had.
Right.
I mean, there are tons of attorneys, every attorney I know has a ton of respect for her and the types of things that she's looking at. And certainly, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Recognizing what she's even allowed to talk about now versus the strategy of the things that they're going to get into. And really, this is something you covered, I want to say maybe like during the week of the election, was we talked about the different connections, the actually exporting it internationally and the software. These are all different facts that have already been verified, and she's putting them all together in this particular battle.
She has a crazy winning record. I think a lot of people don't know that. Would you put her, like, if she were an athlete, because we'll play Stephen Knows Sports later, would she be a Michael Jordan or a Wayne Gretzky
in her area? For sure. I'm not hiring her to be a family law attorney, because that's a different thing.
Or a hand model?
Definitely not a hand model. She's not going to be there.
No.
What?
Probert?
She would be a Probert, yet an enforcer. Few old hockey fans remember the Probert reference.
I'm from St. Louis, so.
But I do want to go to. But let me hit you with a few quick facts as to the actual history of Dominion, and then we'll get into some of the errors, inconsistencies that we've seen with this election. So these are all verifiable. The sources are available at louderwithcrowder.com. We'll have the link below in the description. I want you guys to look this up. Okay, because there have been some people who tried to use Benford's Law misleading and say, oh, look at these switched votes. And I think Dr. Sheever or something is one. That's something that's easily debunked. A lot of these things aren't necessarily true. It's very easy to use statistics to mislead people, and I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is provide you with a snapshot, a history lesson on Dominion, what it is, who they are, and then we'll get to what has happened this election. So Dominion, one of their lobbyists for Dominion is actually Pelosi's former chief of staff, and was listed as a Clinton Foundation. I was going to say that's a fast overlay. A Clinton Foundation donor, $25,000 to $50,000. Now that's not definitive anything. I just want to lay out a case here. Texas rejected using the Dominion voting system in 2019. They said multiple hardware and software issues that preclude the office of the Texas Secretary of State from determining that the Democracy Suite 5.5A system satisfies each of the voting system requirements set forth in the Texas Election Code. Here's another fast fact for you, in case you think these are just a bunch of crazy right-wingers. In 2019, Democrat senators, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and Ron Wyden, one of these things is not like the other. Yeah. Like everyone here's going, Ron? Hey, I'm here too, guys.
Hello.
All right, you're like the third witch in Hocus Pocus. But eventually you got a walk-on role in Sex and the City, so, someone recognized you.
That's terrible.
Ron Wyden. We need to get Ron Wyden on the show.
Yeah.
We don't. Somewhere Richard Painter's going, hey, hey, he's still in my spot. You don't have to my Richard Painter. You're Silly. All right, never mind. I was about to say something.
Don't do it.
So,
Don't do it.
Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, Ron Wyden issued a complaint about Dominion referencing allegations of vote switching and other undisclosed vulnerabilities, writing, quote, "These problems threaten the integrity of our elections." By the way, we're going to go, of course, to Bill and Half-Asian lawyer Bill and Gerald Morgan, but hit the notification bell if you are subscribed on YouTube, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot. The notifications let you know when something goes up here and on Crowder Bits. And, of course, we do Good Morning Mug Club Monday through Thursday every week, 10 a.m. Eastern. This is something I think a lot of people who want to try and paint this now as, oh, it's just, Monday morning quarterback from Republicans. This is something that everyone was concerned about, and some could argue even more so Democrats back in the day.
I mean, there's no question that this was a bipartisan concern. Multiple states, multiple voting jurisdictions and authorities, people from both parties were saying, hold on, wait a minute, this system might not be exactly the way we need it to be. Now, when you combine that with the new information that's coming out about the votes that aren't matching with what's coming out of the system, how there's these types of irregularities, at the very least, there has to be an investigation to go through all of these different questions and answer them. Even if you're a Democrat, if you really believe in the system, then you know that the system will withstand scrutiny. And all we're saying is scrutiny. But even further than that, the idea that we're going to just simply walk away from one of the most important elections, going down one path with one candidate and a very different path with a different candidate, we got to.
Let's say we do this, okay, and Joe Biden wins, and if he wins fair and square, I understand. But I do not trust any other elections going forward. This is the issue, and I think many Americans do. Half of America doesn't believe that Joe Biden won the presidency. We've already seen so many irregularities. This is not like any other election. I don't think anyone here ever contested, again, like we said, Romney, McCain, Bush, Gore. I even remember like, oh, well, they called it for Gore until there was a 37 days. None of those were super controversial. This is very different, and it's widespread and systemic. Something else, too, in August 2020, data security expert, I hope I'm saying this right, Hari Hursty warned that Dominion voting machines could be hacked. He just talked about how you could just modify a few lines of code when they were doing a mock election. They were basically saying that you could almost drag and drop, put whatever results you actually wanted into this election.
They got an update that day, election day.
And the week before the election, right-wing propaganda outlet and wonderful goose steppers, PBS, reported on the vulnerabilities of Dominion. They found that the QR codes could be hacked, candidates' names could randomly disappear, but like LeVar Burton, PBS says, usually he points to a 6-year-old boy who's more credible than him for some reason, you don't have to take my word for it.
But election security experts working for the plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the state have uncovered several troubling issues. Alex Halderman looked closely at the QR codes, where the votes are encoded for the scanner.
By analyzing the structure of the QR codes, I've been able to learn that there's nothing that stops an attacker from just duplicating one. And the duplicate would count the same as the original barcode.
And in late September, another concern came to light. During testing, election workers found half the names of the 21 candidates for Senate intermittently disappeared from screens during the review phase.
Really?
What about Ron Wyden? What was his name? Ron
Wyden.
Wyden. What happened with Ron Wyden's going skunked again?
Who listens to PBS NewsHour?
How did Trump get to you? How did Trump get to you, PBS?
I like how nonchalantly they said that last part. And by the way, names disappeared.
Yeah,
still
like
looking into
half.
that.
I don't know, just the right
And by
half.
the way, people you voted for are not. What do you mean? They're just not. They're just not a thing.
We don't know.
Nothing. I better interject. There was a Canadian news outlet, Rebel News, that discovered a very, very troubling connection between George Soros and Dominion through a Canadian company, and they're actually renting the same building, and well, there's a lot of things about Dominion that I find to be extremely troubling, starting with their name. It's like one of those companies from Grand Theft Auto where they're like the inverse of what they're supposed to be, sort of ideas. So Dominion election systems, it's, to me, even the name screams corruption. So But on a positive note, I'm looking at Trump. The reason, I'll tell you why the election is different from any previous election and any previous president. Trump is much more than just an ordinary man. Trump has become a symbol. Trump has become a symbol of hope or conservatism or rationalism, or there are several things, but you can look at him as like the hero that saved America, which is how I hope he'll be remembered. I hope he'll be remembered with the same fondness as Reagan was, or in the same caliber as Abraham Lincoln. And the reason I say that is because I remember exactly what America was like under Obama, and I'll never forget it. It was like America was a third world country or lower. The morale in the U.S., the Canadian dollar was so strong because we had Stephen Harper that we could get American items at a discount. It was brilliant. It was cheaper to buy from the U.S. for whatever you need than it is to buy here locally in Canada. People were going across the border to get fuel, and it is amazing. But Americans suffered. Americans suffered deeply, deeply. Not just losing your job psychologically will do a number on you. And having to go to get food stamps so you can get food to provide for your family, that'll do a number on you. Mass corruption, crime was up. You don't have enough money in the bank to go and help to even to feed your family. You got to pinch pennies and work through the problem. American properties were dropping like a stone in value. I can go. The American military was humiliated abroad, mocked abroad in the South China Sea. There was vessels crashing into American Navy ships. A frigate was badly damaged, or a destroyer, I think both. So let's not forget what Obama and Joe Biden already gave America. And in that way, Trump essentially rose to the occasion and didn't take the presidency just to get power. I keep hearing that Trump is corrupt and power hungry. No, he isn't. Trump took the presidency for one reason, and that was to get Obama out, to get the Democrats gone, to get the corruption and the filth. They talk about the swamp, but the swamp was growing and growing for like 40 years. And when Obama came in, that was like the culmination of all that nonsense strapped into one giant loser. And, well, I hope that history will accurately remember Obama as the man that almost brought down America. And they literally were in the worst place imaginable. Trump saw this, and that's why his message vibrated through people and gave them hope and even courage. The Million MAGA March was something in which I'm going to make a report about that as well, because that really needs to be noted. Do you know how many Trump supporters were attacked during that thing? There was old elderly people that were being jumped on the street. Crowder actually has clippings, but I'm going to find more of attackers doing those things. And they were Antifa, for what we know. They could have just been ordinary citizens that hate Trump and hate anybody who supports Trump. But elderly people, yeah, that's low. That's pretty low. And I was surprised because nobody actually jumped in to help that man and that couple that I happen to watch. But they were surrounded by radicals who, even women were attacking the elderly gentleman. And it's pathetic. But anyhow, why am I saying this? Dominion flipping the votes, evidently, and I hope that they find a lot of evidence on it, will help. It helps to restore a little bit of confidence in me that maybe this thing can turn around. As Crowder put it, we no longer have free elections. I don't trust the elections after this point. So he's already conceded that there are no free elections in America anymore, unless they were able to properly count and overturn certain votes that are fraudulent. So that's all we want. He put it so nicely. We don't mind losing, but we want to know that the fight was fair, that the fight is not rigged, the game is not rigged. And if it is, then we can't concede at all, and I won't. I will steadfastly refuse to concede that Trump even lost. Even if Biden takes the White House, I'll still say he lost, because I don't want to follow the tide in which people are ignorant, like Fox or like CNN or MSNBC, where something is in question and they just, oh, it doesn't matter. Don't look at that. Forget about it. That kind of propagandist thinking that communist Russia is famous for. That can't happen. And we on the right, who are, I would say, we should stand up against that Democrat style of thinking and utterly reject it. But this gives me hope. This lady, pardon me, we'll just go back a few minutes here, so I don't want to make this clip too long. Sidney Powell, I don't know her by reputation, but I do know that she represented Michael Flynn. And if what Steven Crowder's lawyer said is true, she is at the top of the level that it can be for her profession. And she should cause those people that disobeyed the law to have great fear. I know I would be, because this woman isn't playing games. She's not making so-called accusations without merit. And I believe that. Let's just see her again before we close this thing up again.
Attorney who works with the Trump administration, Sidney Powell, research her, look up her credibility, had this to say yesterday regarding Dominion voting.
We're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
So that's great. That's reassuring. See, one of the things that I thought in the beginning, but I no longer think now, is that the only election fraud that they could actually prove was the ballots that Giuliani was talking about, where Republicans weren't allowed to observe the count in a proper, unbiased fashion, which is a major violation of the Constitution and election parameters for remaining neutral and unbiased. And I thought that was going to be the bulk of the bulk of the ballots that would be overturned and disregarded. But the Dominion ballots, I never thought that they would be that reckless to let that system go so badly out of control that it would be that bad. But that gives me a little bit of hope. As I reported to you in the previous video, there was an overturn of a ruling in Pennsylvania where now, when the small victory that the Trump campaign got to overturn and require that Republican observers be allowed to be close enough to observe the ballots and validate them as they go through was overturned. And now there's no limitation on distance. They could be up to 100 feet. They could be outside, and that would be within the parameters of the law according to how that court ruled. It was pathetic. I was really mad about that. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. So what are we going to do? We appeal it and keep going. Hopefully they can appeal, but it's the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, so I don't know if they can still do something like that. I hope that the battle can continue, but she gives me hope that Dominion. There must be a massive investigation in Dominion, no matter what. And it's imperative that we get to the bottom of it, because there's nothing. The election must be legitimized. It has to be completely validated, completely unbiased. What high tech and the corrupt Democrats intended and have proven that they can do is that they can use influence, they can use misguidance, they can use so many tools at their disposal that controls information to feed a lie to people until they believe it. We can't have that. We can't have it. So it's the same reason why I stopped watching the mainstream media, and I only watch outlets in whom I trust and whom have the reputation for trying to convey the truth as best that they can. So that's the key. But if you're not looking for the truth, you just want something to validate your conclusions, then, by all means, keep watching CNN. So, I hate the division that's occurring right now. It's so provocative. You can't be a Trump supporter openly, that's for damn sure, without being mobbed, attacked, or challenged even in your own household. And the arguments that they come up with is just ludicrous. Oh, the news told me so. Well, the news told me so. They don't have anything else. I said, who's your source? Fox News, CNN. Everybody is saying it. Yeah. When it's ruled, then I'll see what's what. So, and I won't concede, especially if I think that the ballot counting was fraudulent in its recount. Georgia is doing something like that right now, where it's just for show. I would like to see if I'll reason that the count is valid if they overturn hundreds of thousands of ballots, and for nothing less, depending on the state, but definitely in Pennsylvania, and definitely in Michigan, and perhaps in Arizona, but never mind. We'll just take it as we come. But no, Wisconsin, Arizona. I'd love to know what the hell's going on in Nevada. The Trump campaign actually pulled out. They withdrew their suit, and I'm thinking because the corruption was so bad that even without the assistance of the corrupted ballots, that Joe would have won that state irregardless. But no, definitely curious to see how the count will go, and because if she's right, then the Dominion ballot system counters are completely fraudulent, if not 98% fraudulent. I know I'm just throwing it out there, but I mean, that's the fact that they could be reprogrammed so easy is very, very telling. That kind of thing was designed and rigged to destroy a unbiased count, and more or less designed just to count out what they programmed it to count, which is Joe Biden's ballots. So thank you for watching. Sorry about the rant, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.